But with this baby, I knew enough to know I'm just going to quit, and we'll just see when I come back. So right now my focus is I'm only doing the sleep stuff because it's just so much easier to do from home.
Sure.
I'm sure at some point I'll go back and do some therapy. I mean, that's also super flexible, so it's nice. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
I have a therapist, and I Zoom call with her. She's from, oh my gosh, I don't even know, but she's from Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's convenient. I work from home, so I like that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna. I have a. Do you care what I ask you or what we talk about?
No, I don't
Okay,
think
cool.
so.
All right. So do you? I have actually a random question. Do you meditate or do or yoga, or do you do that?
I don't regularly do that. No.
Curious.
I've done yoga a few times. It's not like regularly in my practice,
Yeah.
and I have never been a meditator ever. Like, I can't even say I've ever really tried it because I've never been interested in it.
Okay.
But when I think of mindfulness, mindfulness is something that you can do a lot in therapy, actually. And so when I was getting my master's for marriage and family therapy, I was seeing a therapist, and she did some mindfulness on me, and it was life-changing for me. I can't say that that's my model of therapy that I do with my clients,
Yeah.
but it was very impactful.
Yeah. What kind of? I will just get in. What kind of mindfulness stuff did she do? What do you mean? What did she?
I remember she just had me close my eyes, and she kind of walked me through kind of a scene, I guess. Um, well, no, before that, she just asked me to let go of your thoughts, and she asked me to just ground myself in what I could hear or smell or, feel in the room in that moment. And so I did that. I kind of just did what she asked me to do, and she asked me to breathe deeply, and she just kind of took me away from whatever I had brought into the session that I was anxious about or wanted to talk about. And I don't know. I can't. I mean, it was years and years ago. So she took me through that, took me to a place. I mean, where it just kind of was nothingness.
Yeah.
And she had me just, I don't know. She told me to let my thoughts come and let my thoughts go and not hold on to anything and no judgment. Nothing is good,
Yeah.
nothing is bad. And I, did this practice. And when we got done, she said, "What was that like for you? And what thoughts came, what thoughts left, what thoughts were harder to leave, any new thoughts that came up." And I remember that, a lot of the thoughts or feelings that I'd come to the session with came up first. And then, you let those go. And then I had other thoughts come up that I had never even consciously thought before in my life. And I was like, well, I had this thought, and it was about, I can't even remember what it was about now, but it was about, I was getting my master's. I was dating someone who I ended up marrying. I'd always wanted to be a mother. So it was about, going to school to get this degree and have a profession, and knowing that I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And it's something about motherhood and my career, and whether I was not going to have a career or I wanted to have a career, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, because through that all, I've, taken lots of other steps to get where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But it was just opposite, I guess, of what I'd always thought, or something that had never even crossed my mind. And so just to have it come up kind of opened up this other realm of thinking for me and resonated with something deep inside of me. And so I imagine that it was something about, I don't know, wanting
Well,
to work after I had kids, or I don't even know, but I'm sure, I mean, I've no doubt that kind of process opened up the door for what I'm doing now, that I really do
that's
enjoy a
wild.
lot.
That's so cool that you can remember that, and then that had so much impact on you. That moment, that huge first ever mindfulness practice moment, meditation type thing that you did, and years later you remember it. You can realize the impact it had. That's so cool. What the question I ask all my guests that I have on, I always ask them in the beginning, when they wake up in the morning, it kind of gives my guests and me an opportunity to to see where you're at right now. When you wake up in the morning and get your day started, like the first thing that really makes your heart sing, like you truly say, okay, I'm waking up and this is what's going to make my heart fill up if this happens, or if I can accomplish this, or if I can impact this. What is
That's an interesting question. So I
it?
I mean, I'm in this phase of life where I'm still getting up in the middle of the night to feed my baby. And I'm like, I told you, I'm really slow to come back to like feeling like I'm fully myself after having a baby. So your question is like, the first thing I'm going to tell you, the first thing that came to mind, and then you can tell me if you want like a deeper answer.
No, this is great. I love everything about this.
The first thing that came to mind was hot chocolate. I know some people
Yeah, it's awesome.
wake up and drink coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I will sometimes, meaning I've done it, it's been my motivation to get up before my kids, which is hard for me because I'm not sleeping through the night, is that I can get a cup of hot chocolate and just read my scriptures in the morning and kind of fill my soul that way, I guess. And
That's beautiful.
sometimes I'm motivated to do that, sometimes I'm not.
Sure.
But that's kind of like the ideal, right? That I wake up and I get to do that.
That's one of my favorite answers that my guests have ever given, by the way. Just because, I mean, the first inclination is to give like a deep, thoughtful, another one of my favorites somebody said was, their puppy made them that was like filled them up
Yeah.
with more, so that makes total sense. How old's your little one that you had?
So he's almost 8 months.
He's almost 8. Okay. Yeah. How's, now being the sleep expert, how's his sleep?
His sleep has been a wild ride, to be honest. He did pretty good as a newborn. I mean, I think newborns are always hard because some newborns sleep through the night. Mine never did, but he did pretty good. I mean, I was feeding him like once and we were working on sleeping through the night. And right when we were getting to that place, my milk supply tanked. And so then I was nursing whenever I could to get it back up. So we jumped back to like two feeds a night. And then he started having symptoms for a tongue tie, which affected his sleep. And we had to get that fixed. We had to get that lasered off. And so he went from, this barely 1 feed a night, sometimes no feeds, to 2-3 times a night. And then I just haven't had it in me to do much other than kind of focus on good daytime sleep and good habits. I just couldn't do like any crying at night, like not in a place to do that. Yeah. So I've just kind of tried to nurture where he's already at, and just like this last week, he dropped down to 1 feed, and I'm super excited about that. So
that's, with this, you helped, you've probably helped hundreds. I don't know if it's thousands yet of mothers and fathers with their kids' sleep habits. Did you learn, I'm curious, like this with your most recent son, did you learn anything new throughout this?
Oh, yes, I
Wow.
did. I was thinking about it the other day. I actually just posted on my stories on Instagram about this. I was thinking about all the things that I learned with each child, because even my naturally good sleepers challenged me with certain things that would come up. And I learned so much through all of them. And this last one has really been one that's tested the books, I guess, like as far as, this is what a baby should be sleeping, or what their nap should look like, or, kind of the principles that I use to guide my clients and myself and get everybody on track. And he's tested that a little bit, not like to the point where he doesn't follow it, but he definitely sleeps to the beat of his own drum. And I've had to be like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and I'll try your lead and I'll follow it. And he ends up doing better when I do that, as opposed to when I try and force him onto what, I typically recommend. So that's been really interesting to learn, because I have clients tell me that, well, but my child, I don't know, he's never done that. And I tend to go to, well, he's never done that because we've never helped him do that. Let's help him get there. And so this has opened my mind to kind of a place of even more so, yeah, of course kids are different, which sounds so silly to say that I'm learning that, but I'm learning it at a whole new level. Like, of course kids are different, but no, really, every single baby is so different. So that's been good.
Yeah. And Marietta, I love, for people listening, like, there's a lot of listeners I have that have reached out to me, and they want me to talk a little bit more about like how somebody started doing what they love, right? Their passion, kind of like yourself. And what you just said is so cool, because I think so many people uh, wait till the perfect moment. They have to research everything. They have to know everything. They have to feel like they are the absolute, like all the answers before they start helping or doing something that they love. When really I'm going to ask you this, but you have to start somewhere, and then you continue to learn throughout the process, right? So I want you, if you can, tell me a little bit about kind of like how you ended up, because you obviously love what you do, right? Helping people and families with their kids sleep. I mean, I was a
Mhm.
client of yours, and you were awesome, and it like changed our life, like literally. Um, by the way, I'll tell that a little bit actually. So, and then I'll let you talk, but
Okay.
because I want
Yeah.
people to hear. Uh,
Yeah.
so we got to the point where Weston, my son, I've mentioned a bunch of times in this podcast, he we didn't know what to do. We were going in there, we were feeding my spouse was feeding him and trying to get him to sleep, and he would only sleep. Then eventually we got him to where we were bringing him in our bed. I'm trying to remember because this was like a year and a half ago. So we started bringing him in our bedroom, and after a couple of days of that and sleeping with us, we were looked at each other like, no, we weren't getting any sleep. We're like, we cannot go this route. Like, we cannot let this happen. And our first daughter was so simple, flawless, so good, slept amazing. My parents were always like, you guys have no idea how good you have it. And we're like, what do you mean? Parenting's easy. Like, they sleep all the time. And as soon as my son came, it was like game over. So, and then we called you or texted you, and we had some calls, and it literally two days, maybe three. It was amazing, right? And then of course there was some recession, and a few months later, got in touch with you again because our package included that, and again 2 days later, it was great again. So you're like Marietta knows, and I've referred people over there. So now my question is, how did you go from where I guess college, and then able to do what you now love from home, and helping people out with your website and all that?
Yeah, for sure. So I, graduated marriage and family therapy, started doing therapy, started having kids. My first was an excellent sleeper, a lot like yours. Like, I just thought I was so good at this. And I'm not, or I wasn't. I made so many like rookie mistakes. But I had read a book, like and it's a very popular book. I still recommend it today, but it just,
What book
I
is
don't
it?
know. It's Healthy Sleep Habits, Happy Child.
Okay.
Um, and it's a great book, but there's so much with sleep, so it's so easy to just miss something. And he was an easy sleeper, so it was, I don't know, he did great.
Yeah.
Um, my twins came when my oldest was 22 months old, and that just threw me into a whirlwind. Obviously was not sleeping with newborns. Thought I just disregarded, like, I just am laughing at myself, like, what was I thinking? I disregarded everyone's help around sleep, because I was like, oh, I got this. My first slept like an angel. I know exactly what I'm doing. Yes, I had no idea what I was doing, and my twins just humbled me to the bottom. um, and that's when my twins really helped me learn more. Like, that's when I really was like, okay, I really need to learn better. And so I, dived in, did a bunch of research, read everything I could get my hands on. And I made my first sleep plan like for my twins when they were 8 months old. And I was just not in a very good place because of lack of sleep with them. Now, as you fast forward a little bit, and I had complained to friends, I had posted on social media about sleep. And so I had, when it got better, I started having friends and family just kind of be like, what did you do? Or can you help me? And so I would just help them. I'm so passionate about sleep. Even with my first, I was so passionate about learning about it. There's so much to learn as first time parents that you can't dive into everything so deeply. So my twins forced me to dive in deeply. I started helping friends and family. And then I even started helping clients as a therapist, because one of
Oh.
the things that I specialized in was parenting with young children, kind of working on attachment and boundaries and all of that with young children. And prior to any of this, I never really assessed for sleep or sleep needs, or how that was going. And as soon as I had my own kids, I was like, yeah, that's huge. Like sleep affects, these tantrums and aggression that they're coming in to me for.
Wow.
Sleep can be the bottom line. So if I'm not assessing for that, like I'm really doing these families a disservice. So transferred over to my therapy practice, or, just assessing for it and helping when it applied. Um, and then, I don't know,
It sounds almost organic. Like it just kind of organically happened after that.
yeah, that all happened. And then one day I don't know, I just wanted to do it. Like I started thinking about becoming a sleep consultant and doing
Oh.
just that. And I couldn't sleep at night because I was so excited about it. And I started thinking about like how I would design my website, and started, looking around to see like, well, what are other people doing? Are there other sleep consultants? How are they marketing? And just kind of started to gather information. And the more I saw, the more I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And um, my twins were 18 months at that point, and I, did it. It was like 2 months of putting stuff together, which is not very long. And then I launched it, and I gave away all my services for free, big giveaways, just trying to get some reviews and some clients. And I remember I still do free Q&As. They've changed over the years, but the first time I started, I would have people submit questions about sleep, and I would give myself a day, and then I would answer them, in a live on Facebook or something. And that, the reason I mentioned that specifically is because at that point, I didn't feel like I knew everything. I
Yeah.
couldn't have. I just didn't have, like, it wasn't at the tip of my tongue. Like I didn't have enough experience to just know it like right like that.
Yeah.
So that's why, you got to submit it by Tuesday. I'll go live on Thursday, or I don't know what it was, whatever day it was. And
Sure.
once I've had a chance to just look over your questions, like that helped build my confidence, because I knew that I had it in there, and I knew that I had like the resources for it to find the answers. It was just a matter of like calming my anxiety with these questions that were coming in, and like giving myself time to just think about them. Now, I mean, that, like I said, that progressed to, well, I don't have time to pre-read these questions. Like I have it just, yeah, once it built up and I had clients coming in, I didn't have time to put all this effort into my free Q&As. They were free, and they had to be at the tip of my tongue. And I realized
Ah.
by then I did have the answers, and I did know it all. I didn't have to, oh yeah, what's the wake time for a 7-month-old between their naps? Like now I do know it, because I've worked with so many clients and, just immersed myself in it. And so,
So what is the
um,
wake time for a month old in between
yeah,
that?
so it's about longest would be 2.5 hours, and that can be between the first and second nap or at the end of the day. But sometimes it's only like 2 hours and 15 minutes, just depends.
Hmm.
So there you go. So yeah, I definitely
This
mean,
one.
starting out, I didn't feel like I knew everything, but I felt like I was so passionate about it, and I loved it so much that I would learn anything I needed to for my clients.
Yeah, my favorite part of that whole story is that you said that in the middle of the night you were thinking about what your website would look like. I mean, that right there shows how excited that idea was for you. And you could have just put it by the wayside and just not done it, right? Which a lot of people will come up with great ideas that keep them up, and then they'll just kind of fizzle off. But you went forward with it, and now look where you are, and I love that. Um, Now I guess I want to get into a few. Most of the people listening to my podcast have families, all different ages, mostly young, I would say though. I guess I'd like to give a few tips while you're on here. And I guess I can just go with more of what I like, my age group and stuff. So, when do you, well, okay, let's stop. Let me ask the question. One topic I want to get into is co-sleeping,
Okay.
and your thoughts on that. And I don't know if that's more opinionated. I'm not an expert, but I saw it a couple times here and there, and have friends that talk about it. And what are your thoughts on that? And is that okay? Is that like what's going on there?
Yeah, great question. So first, I'll say what the AAP says. So the AAP recommends no co-sleeping until the child is at least 1 year of age. So kind of that's the recommendation to be the safest. I'm probably one of the most lenient, if you will. The AAP puts out a lot of recommendations, and some we follow as a family, and some I have to say that's not going to work for us in our situation. And what I aim to do is to give each of my families that same respect, that you get to decide what happens in your home, and I'll support what you are going to do in your home. So as an example, my newborn course that I have, it's the only course that I know of that is co-sleeping friendly, but also independent sleep friendly. So in the course, I give 3 different ways that you can do newborn sleep. And then it's up to you. Like, you have to decide what's going to work in your home and with your family. Now, typically, if I have a family that's coming to me with kind of like where you guys were with an older baby, not newborn stage, 16 weeks or more, maybe 6 months or maybe a year, I'm typically helping them move away from co-sleeping, because co-sleeping is hard. Eventually, at some point, it gets hard. If it's working for you now, at some point, it's going to get hard. And I can say that that is true for every family I've ever met, because I know no family where you have teenagers or 10-year-olds, sleeping in the parents' bed. At some point you transition out, whether that's at 4 months or a year or, 4 years.
What's hard? I want to, like, while you're talking, what's hard about it? Is it the strain on what I think about when that happens is like the strain on the relationship, like husband and wife or spouse relationship. That's what I think about.
Yeah. And to me, it would be a lot of co-sleeping parents that I've talked to or seen, just talk about ways that they work around that. So, we'll put the baby to bed and we'll go in the guest room and kind of have our alone time. And then we'll come back in and sleep with the baby, which is great if your baby really can sleep in the bed without you there. Right. But I'm talking to parents who are like, if I move, this child's waking up, like,
right.
So that's a strain on it. It can be hard for the child, because typically in a co-sleeping situation, the child's not getting quite enough sleep. And the child is really dependent on these certain conditions that the child cannot control. Like, oh, I have to have mom right next to me. Well, mom needs 8 hours of sleep. Baby needs 14 hours of sleep. How is the baby going to get these other, 6 hours of sleep if mom has to be right there next to him? Especially if there's other kids that mom has to go take care of, it crumbles at some point. And some families love co-sleeping. Yeah. I have family that love co-sleeping, and I think that it works for some families. And I never want to shame or like take away from the choice that they're making in their family if it works for them.
Right.
But I'm here to help if it doesn't work. And if you're not a co-sleeping family, but you're stuck co-sleeping, like, let's figure out a way that you can all start sleeping independent. And in my experience, at least for my family, sleeping independently means that the baby's getting better sleep. The baby's getting sufficient sleep. Mom and dad are getting better sleep. I have some alone time. Like, I'm an introvert and I have to have my alone time every day. And so, like, bedtime is golden for me, because I have to have that time at the end of the day, or I will just go crazy. Like, I can't do little people all day long. So co-sleeping has never been one to work with me, because I can't have someone touching me all night long sleeping.
Because they're already touching you all day too. Yeah.
Yes, I cannot do it. But again, if that's your thing, then, you get to decide. It's your home. And totally. If it's working for you, then don't change it. If I have people tell me all the time, like, I'm co-sleeping and I love it so much, like, is this going to ruin my child? No, it's not going to ruin your child. If you love it and everyone's happy and getting the sleep that they need, then keep doing it. When it becomes a problem or when you're done with it,
right,
you can always change. You can always change, whether that's your sleeping habits or, whatever.
What do you, so speaking of change, like, just based on an overall majority, like, what are 1 or 2 steps that somebody could take if that if they are like, okay, I can't do this anymore? What are recommendations, generalized recommendations?
Okay, give me an example age.
Oh yeah, so everything's different, huh? That's what I was.
Yes.
I would say I'll go more of just extreme, where the child will not go to bed unless one of the parents goes in with them and falls asleep with them.
Okay. So are they sleeping in the child's room? Like the parents sleeping in the child's room, or
Yes.
they're okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say the child's like 3 then, 3-ish, 2.5, 3. Does that sound okay?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just putting a hypothetical scenario
Just
real
right.
far out there. Yeah.
And the reason it's different is because the parent's sleeping with the child. I'm guessing the child's not in a crib.
Right. They're in a double bed
Um,
probably or something. Yeah.
yeah, and in that scenario, it's likely that if the parent leaves and shuts the door, the child would be able to, open the door and get out. There's 2 different ways that you can do this, right? One is the rip the Band-Aid off, and the other is slowly take that Band-Aid off, right? The rip the Band-Aid off parent is going to find a way to, create a barrier so that the child stays in the room. They're going to, have a great bedtime routine. They're going to have some awesome attachment time with their child. They're going to have explained to their child this new plan of sleeping. They're going to have a reward chart. I mean, they're going to be prepared for this. The child's going to be prepared for this. And then when it's time to go to sleep, they're going to give that child a hug, and they're going to walk out of the room and shut the door. The door is going to not be able to be opened by the child. I mean, there's lots of variations. You could leave the door open, and if the child comes out, then you go to, plan B of shutting the door. I mean, a million different things, but essentially
Yeah.
you're just leaving the room and you're waiting until the child falls asleep that first night. That's rip the Band-Aid off. Your child's gonna understand the new expectations and start sleeping, in 1 to 3 nights, really. The slower approach, and there's a billion different ways you could do it in between, right? But the slower approach is going to be, dad or mom falling asleep in the bed with the child. To, okay, well, I'm going to sit on the bed while you fall asleep. To, I'm going to sit on the floor next to you while you fall asleep. To, I'm going to sit 5 inches away from you while you fall asleep. Eventually getting out of the room, standing at the door while the child falls asleep. Eventually, coming and going, or kind of where the child can see you and then they can't see you, or just very gradually getting the child used to these new steps of independence. Again, that child's also going to be prepared for these new steps. You're going to have a rewards, like there's so much that you're going to do for that older age, 2.5, 3-ish, to help them get to independent sleep.
Yeah. I like how you said that. There's like the whole preparation part of it. It's not just like ripping the Band-Aid off, saying, "All right, here we go. See you later. Good luck." It's the whole getting it prepared. We love, by the way, not for sleeping reasons, but reward charts at our house are huge for many different
Oh my word, yes.
phases of life.
Yes to that.
Yeah, and I tell Catherine, my wife, I always say, like, babe, you gotta like share this, because she's a private Instagram account, which is fine. I understand. But I'm like, man, your idea, she comes up with like the best ideas for reward charts, and she gets all of her friends here that she knows that follow her. They're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Tell me more. Da, da. But anyway, so we're very big on that. That's a good tip. So anyone listening that's in that scenario or knows somebody, just go ahead and forward this podcast to them so they can take a listen.
Yes.
And then there'd also be one more listener. Um, so you said that transitioning after pregnancy is a little tough. What do you mean by that? I mean, just for anybody struggling in the same or doing it in a similar situation. That's why I'm asking. What like, and obviously you're like, cool, everything's cool. You're taking a call with me at 8:30, which is right now it's 8:30 p.m., which is amazing. Thank you for doing that, because I know you like your me time, and hopefully we can
Well,
have a.
it's 6:30 here, so technically I'm
Oh,
missing bedtime, which I
oh,
am A-okay with.
all right, cool. So that worked out. All right, because I started to feel a little. I'm like, oh no, I hope that. That's funny.
Yes.
I guess Mike. So hopefully your husband's doing a good job in there, getting her all
I know,
ready.
right? Who knows?
What is what is your routine? We do and I'm just curious. We do two. I've never talked about this stuff before on any of my episodes, so that's why it's really cool talking to you. 2 books, 2 songs, bed, and it seems to work pretty well. Is that, what do you guys do?
So I'm a minimalist when it comes to bedtime, especially because when I have to do it by myself, I have to have it be quick because my patience is running thin by the end of the day. And like I said, I just need my time. So we do, go to the bathroom, jammies, brush teeth, and then we do one book. And I've done different things throughout the years. I've done, each child gets to pick one book. If we're low on time, I say we're doing one book and you have to be in your bed. Sometimes I even just do a story. If you go get in your bed, I'll tell you a story. Those are like we're running low on time and I need you guys to get to bed. If we have more time though, say my husband's gone and, I'm a planner. And so if my husband's not going to be around, I'm like, dinner is on time. Dinner's early, in fact. And, we're doing everything so that we can get to bed on time. Cause I know that my kids will resist bedtime less and they will get ready for bedtime easier if it's earlier. If I'm pushing the limit, they're going to fight it more and it's going to be harder and it's not going to be fun for anyone. So what I've been doing lately is if you're all ready for bed, I'm just laughing because sometimes I'm like, I don't know why my kids fall for this, but they do, and it works. I tell them I'll read their stories. So I have 3 of them. They're 6 and 4, and I will read each of them a story. They get to listen to everybody's story, and then I'll say, okay, pick out a couple books, and you can go up to your bed with the light on and read stories in your bed. And they are like, yeah, and they'll like pick 2 books out and they'll run up to their bed and they'll get in their bed. And then I let them like look at or read their books to themselves for like 15, 20 minutes. And then I come in and turn the light off. And they think it's like this special treat that like mom's letting us stay up later and read books in their bed. And I'm really putting them to bed early.
That's so funny. It's funny you
and
said
they're
that.
sitting in there quietly reading. And I love it.
Have they ever just shut the lights off themselves and went to bed?
No, I usually go in about 15 minutes later. I've got to do it earlier than their bedtime, and their bedtime is 7:00. So it's usually a rush to get them to
Yeah,
bed.
that's
So
like
no, they
dinner and
haven't
then
done that yet.
Yeah, that's it sounds very familiar to a lot of stories from our household and probably others too. Yeah, I was going to ask you a question in regards to that. Getting him ready for bed. I lost my train of thought as you were telling that story because it was good.
Or no, I'm going to tell you while you're thinking. I'm going to tell you another awesome like bedtime tip
Okay.
that I have loved. Anytime you can make bedtime work more fun.
Yeah.
So getting pajamas on, brushing teeth is not typically a fun activity around here. But they do it for the reward of reading a story, right? So you have to get all ready for bed and then you get the reward of reading the story. Sometimes I can get my kids to do races. Okay, everyone on the count of 3, run up and we'll see who can get their jammies on first. And like sometimes they'll go for that, sometimes they won't. But one thing I've been doing lately, and I've been, again, absolutely shocked at how well it's worked. I tell my kids, okay, I'm going to start at 10 and I'm going to count down to 0. And I want you to have your jammies on by 0. And you would think like, okay, that's like less fun than a race, right? Like mom's just counting down, but I kid you not. I start counting, I'm like 10, 9, and they book it up the stairs to get their jammies on. And I'm just shocked. Like, I'm like, wow, that was so easy. And I've done it for fun things too. Like we've been at the park and I'm like, hey guys, it's time to go. 5 minutes. We've done the whole, like, I'm giving you a warning, whatever. And then, okay, it's time to go. And no one's listening to me. And I just start counting 10, 9. And I kid you not, all 3 of them get to the car before I get to 0. And I'm like, this is the greatest trick that no one ever told me. Like, this is amazing. So there's my other
that's
trick for you.
It's like a challenge for them almost in their minds. Like, oh, let's see if I can do it. That's cool. I like that.
Yes. Sorry, my son just
that's okay.
Sneaking in here, but we can keep chatting.
It's okay. This is part of podcast life.
Right. Okay, sorry.
That's fine. So what I did, it reminded me. You said, and it's funny because I never even really was aware of it. But yes, if we start bedtime earlier, it seems to be such a smoother process than like rushing it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It like doing it earlier. And sometimes you're like, because you know, it's my mind goes, man, I have to do this every single night, get him ready for bed. You know what I mean? Together. And so I'm like, you know, and then your mind wants to just push it. But if you get it done a little earlier, it just is so much smoother.
So like night and day difference. It really is so simple, but it makes such a big difference.
Yeah. I actually never even realized that 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
that's wow. So my daughter's, she's going to be 5 in a few days. We're actually organizing. It's pretty cool. So she's in bed now. With this coronavirus situation, we can't have her birthday party in 2 weeks.
So
So
sad.
yeah, it stinks. So my wife emailed their school today, and the teacher, or not the teachers, the students, parents, and the moms, and was like, hey, would you guys be interested in, anybody who wants to, you don't have to, but driving to we have a cul-de-sac at 10 o'clock on her birthday, and singing, you know, we'll sing happy birthday and stuff to her in the
Yeah, I love
cul-de-sac.
it.
So trying to figure out different ways to do this. How
Make it
is
special.
with the coronavirus? Is there any differences that you're doing when it comes to naps and bedtime, or is it pretty much still as smooth as normal?
I mean, my kids were all home before, so even with school canceled, it doesn't change our day-to-day life too much. So yeah, the one thing that I'm like 1% disappointed about is my 8-month-old son gets every single nap in his bed now because we don't go anywhere.
Oh,
And I'm only 1% disappointed because I love babies sleeping in their bed. Like, it gives me peace. But he just won't have any opportunities to practice naps on the go. And I'm scared that he will absolutely not nap on the go when the time comes. So, but
that's a
otherwise, for us, things are about the same.
Yeah, I'm
As
not in that like
before.
space, so
Yeah.
I have no idea if other people have to handle this differently, and you know, maybe so, but I have no idea. You know what's crazy is how much kids sleep. I didn't even,
Yeah.
if you add up all the time, I feel sometimes I'm like, man, I shouldn't be putting him to bed at 7 because he wakes up at 7. That's 12 hours of sleep through the night. But that's, you know, he's 2 years old, and that's normal, right?
Yeah, it is a normal. Yeah. And that's kind of my go-to is I kind of aim for 12 hours of sleep as like my goal number. And some kids won't need that much at night depending on what naps look like and their individual needs, but 12 hours is so glorious.
Could you imagine 12 hours for yourself?
uh, I would love it and hate it. The other night I literally went to bed at 8 o'clock because I was like, I'm so tired. And I didn't get up until maybe 7, but I was awake for like 3 hours in the middle of the night, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was a bad idea. I knew it.
Well, let's get another couple more tips here for people listening. What's one of the most common scenarios or questions you get asked? There's got to be like a top 2 or 3, right? That you get asked.
That's a good question, actually. Um,
That should be your next post. Top 3 questions I get asked. If you want answers, pay
yeah,
me $1,000.
right. I'm trying to think because, I mean, there's definitely like, um, I'm constantly having to explain why sleep training helps sleep. So I'd say that's probably a question that, your child really does want to fall asleep and sleep in the same way they're going to sleep the rest of the night. So that's why falling asleep independent in your bed, a child will sleep better than a child who is, nursing to sleep or getting rocked to sleep, just because their environment is changing while they're asleep, and it's confusing when they go through a sleep transition from one cycle to the next. So I'm always explaining that. I probably get scheduling questions so much, so much, and I told you I do a free Q&A. So if you're, Libby, will you shut my door, please? Shut my door, Kate. Thank you. Um, if you are following along in my stories on Instagram, I'll put like a Q&A box up and answer those questions for free once a week. And almost always I'm getting, schedule for an 8-month-old, 12-month-old schedule, and, every age, what's the ideal schedule. And I have like information out there that people can go find, but it doesn't matter. Like I always get asked scheduling questions.
Uh,
How long should they be awake between naps? How long should their naps be? Just tons of questions. And daytime schedule is really important because it impacts nighttime sleep. And so if your daytime schedule is off, your child's likely to wake up more at night. So sometimes you're able to fix nighttime wake ups by fixing just the daytime schedule, less or more awake time, or changing the time of the naps. So that's probably another one that I get asked all the time.
yeah.
Um, and then early morning wake ups, because those are just so brutal, that if you are experiencing an early morning wake up where your child's waking, between 5 and 6, or oh my word, between 4 and 5, those are awful. And so I think they will seek out help before someone else, just because it's so miserable.
We were this close to reaching out to you again, um, probably 3 months ago, when he was like, I don't know, 20 months old or
Mm-hmm.
nine. Yeah, he kept waking up at 5 a.m. like all the time for like
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks straight. And I'm like, there's nothing we tried leaving him in there, but he would just scream like at the top of his lungs, not crying. No, he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. He wouldn't cry. He
Mm-hmm.
would just scream
Scream.
for us. And so
Oh
there was
man.
nothing we were trying. I forget how it. I think we just kind of let it, like, tried to leave him in there as long as possible, and eventually it ended up going till 6:30 or so. So
Oh good. I mean, that's doable. Like, I feel like 6:30 is so doable, but 5, like, no. No.
no, it was no way. Especially for um, Catherine. She likes to sleep. She likes to have her 8-9 hours, which is like totally acceptable. And
Yeah.
that was not happening at 5.
Yeah.
So we would switch off. So what happens is all these different sleep situations, what happens, and everybody can probably relate to this for that have kids, like your schedule gets thrown off too. So we were rotating. I would wake up one day, she would wake up the next day at 5 with him. I would wake up at 5. And so then like it would throw off what I need to do in the morning for work and what she needed to do to get ready. And then you know, thank God my daughter sleeps through everything like a rock. But
Yes.
if you don't have that, then all of a sudden your other kid's waking up. I mean, it's just,
Oh,
yeah. So that's so important. That's why people like you are you're doing amazing things that you just realize, like you're just on a daily basis going through the motions, but the people you're helping is just incredible.
well, sleep is the foundation. That's what I always say. Like, you can have all the goals and aspirations that you want to have, but if you literally are not sleeping, like, you will hit a roadblock. Like, there's only so much you can do. And anyone can survive on disrupted sleep for, a little while. We all do it
Yeah.
with a newborn, but at some point it has to change, or else your functioning will go down.
Are you pretty versed on like the amount of sleep you should get and then what happens when you don't get that sleep to your brain and stuff like that?
So it's really, I'll tell you what I know. I can't say that I'm like an expert or anything, but from what I know, like, we don't know two things. We don't know exactly what happens when we don't get sleep, but you hear all sorts of theories out there, like, oh, well, if you don't get sleep, for X amount of days, then you'll just die, or that's how they like torture people, is by not letting them
we're
sleep.
we're going dark in the beginning here. That's where we're going.
Yeah. I figure start dark and then let's get to a better place, right? So that, yes, that is like the worst. I was getting 4 hours of staggered sleep with my twins um, for months, and my body, like, I didn't feel tired. I'd wake up and like I'd be okay, and I'd be able to function throughout the day because I had done it for so long that I really feel like your body compensates. But I think it pulls like from somewhere else, because my mental health was struggling. Um, my drive was like, everything was just struggling because my body couldn't, it was compensating for sleep and it couldn't do anything else. Um, so that's my own like personal whatever. But if you look at like your DSM, diagnosis for mental health, sleep is related to like everything in there. There might be something in there that doesn't have sleep, but I don't know of it.
Yeah.
Everything comes back to sleep. So when we don't know, we don't know exactly what happens in our bodies while we're sleeping. Um, I've heard it described as kind of a detox time. And so sleep helps you mentally and with your health physically, and it's like detoxing both somehow, like your brain and your body and your emotions, however that all works together. But
Yeah.
um I don't know, it's so necessary.
Yeah, I heard you made me think of a recent, I forget where it was. I was watching a documentary or a study about how the difference, they did a study where they had people get 6 hours of sleep for a couple weeks straight and tested their like speed on the keyboards and reaction time to things popping on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had them get buzzed for a few days in a row, and did their reaction time. And then they had them not like draw on camera, but buzz. They definitely, like in the study, you can see them. And then they had them get 7 hours of sleep
Mm-hmm.
and test the reaction time.
Mm-hmm.
They had a faster reaction time buzzed than 6 hours of sleep. And the one
That's
that was
crazy.
far above and beyond was a 7 hours of sleep. Same test group, same
Yeah.
everything. And
Well, they
that's
say that with daylight savings, like when you lose that hour of sleep, that next day there's more car accidents and more heart attacks than any other day of the year.
that's
So
why, I
I
mean,
100% believe that that hour is like, yeah,
that's six. That's
shocking. So shocking.
Yeah. I mean, so what, you're more likely, and then the first thought was like, okay, so you're more likely to get in like a car accident with 6 hours of sleep than a little bit of a buzz because your reaction time is slower. I'm like, okay,
Which is
how many,
scary.
yeah, I mean, how many people are driving around on 5 to 6 hours of
Oh,
sleep
yeah.
a night?
Yeah.
There's a very small percentage, in my opinion, that could function on that, naturally.
Right. Right.
Um,
I have talked to people that say they can function on that little of sleep, and part of me is like, I don't believe it. But I know there's different sleep needs in adults too. Like you
sure.
said, like your wife needs 8 or 9. I would like kill for 9 hours of sleep every night. It would be like so wonderful. And my husband, like, I don't know how he functions, but he goes to bed after me and he gets up before me, and I'm like,
Wow.
it's great, whatever.
Yeah, that's wow. How about that? What time do you like to get to bed at night?
I feel, I mean, on a regular on a regular year where I don't have a baby, um, probably between like 10 to 11,
Okay.
and get up between like 6 and 7. Um, right now, like at 9 o'clock is my okay. It's time to start getting ready for bed. I want to be in bed and like lights out by 9:30.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get up, feed my baby, and then still get up before my kids in the morning. So I'm trying to
Well,
get up around
the
6.
reason I ask that is it seems like you have a pretty good schedule that you work by or try to stay the best on. So wanted people to like hear that. So what do you have, like a routine to get yourself into bed, or what you do to fall asleep and have a good night's sleep?
Yeah. So
Ah,
I have a couple things that I do that are like really important for me to sleep well. Yes. Okay. So I there's two things so two minerals that are sleep minerals. One of them is magnesium, one of them is potassium, and you have to have both of them to be able to kind of sleep your best. So potassium is found in our foods, so eating foods high in potassium is good. That helps. And then um, the magnesium, I I don't know as much about magnesium, but my sister has done a ton of research, and so I just take her advice and go for it, and it's worked wonders for me. So I actually use a magnesium soak, and I soak either in the bathtub or I just soak my feet in the evening to get my magnesium in my body. And from what I understand, a transdermal magnesium gets absorbed into your body much better than an oral magnesium. So that's what I'm doing. And I've seen huge benefits from that magnesium since I started it, not just in sleep, but in other areas, and am a total believer in it.
wow.
So I try to do that pretty frequently. Um, Part of that is because I think my body's still recovering from postpartum. I know it's 8 months, and in the world today, people think you bounce back after 2 weeks. But I really believe that it takes a full year to physically recover from being pregnant and having a baby. So I'm still trying to get, my body back into where it was before my pregnancy. So I soak anywhere from like 5 to 6 nights a week. Whereas before I got pregnant, I would only soak like maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And it was doing amazing things for me. So anyway, huge believer of that. And then from there, I just try to do no screens at bedtime. So like when I come up and get ready for bed, like I can't open my phone and look at it. And then I use I use earplugs, and I have like an eye mask that I use
Nice. Nice.
because it just makes a world of difference for me. I'm a very light sleeper, so if I don't have my earplugs in, I will wake up. Well, like as an example, if I don't wear earplugs, I'll wake up to go feed my baby. When I come back to bed, if my husband is laying on his back, he breathes loud. I know it sounds so funny because he doesn't even snore, like he doesn't, but he breathes too loud and I can't sleep. So if I can't sleep with breathing, then all the other sounds that just come, like with kids and night and whatever, I'll just put my earplugs in. I only do that when my husband's home because obviously I want to be able to hear them if something is going on.
Right.
And then darkness is so helpful for sleep. So if you have like a blue light in your room, sometimes they have blue lights on, like what are those called? The fire monitors. What are those called? Oh my word.
Smoke detector?
Thank you. Smoke detector. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's like a blue beeping light, or like on a printer, or like a clock. Like those are really bad for your sleep, and they're just as bad as having like a screen that you're looking at. So
Huh.
I have like no lights like that in my room, and I still wear my eye mask for like lights that are coming in the window or anything like that. So that's kind
Cool.
of what I do to sleep
Yeah,
my
those are some really
best.
good tips. There's some really, really good ones.
Oh, and early to bed and
Yeah.
early to rise. Like
Yeah.
it's I no one likes to go to bed early. We all like to stay up and do things, fun things, whatever. But if you get into a good routine of going to sleep at the same time every night and it's earlier, you will sleep better. So
Yeah. Well, listening to you say 7 p.m. with your kids makes me want to put my son especially to bed a little earlier than I normally do. I usually 7:30, 7:40, but I love to get him to bed by 7.
it's golden. And like again, my goal is like 7 to 7 asleep, but they're
Yeah,
older now and they're more flexible, and so I'm
sure.
much more lenient with them than I am with my baby. My baby I don't push. Like
Right.
he went to bed at 6, so
Yeah. And he'll sleep till
he'll sleep till 6 or 7, maybe 7:30 if I'm lucky.
yeah, nice. Nice. Um I'll ask you this. I mean, we had a different this was a cool conversation. It was definitely a little different than a lot of the conversations I have, because usually I'm talking about meditation. I'm talking about like how they're using their mindfulness in their business and stuff. But I wanted to have you on because I think sleep, and I think that we can't even be mindful or use our brains in the way that we want to without the proper sleep. And if your kids are not getting it, then you're not going to be able to function the way that you need to even be mindful in your everyday life, that to the level that I think is that everybody should be at. So that's why I wanted to have you on. And in the intro, I mentioned that too, which you didn't hear, but so I appreciate it. And I want to ask you a question that I ask everybody, so I'm going to ask you too. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self any advice, and your 18-year-old self would listen, Marietta, what would you say?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me cry, I think. Um, I think I would tell myself to just believe in yourself. Just believe. And
Beautiful.
then that sounds so little, I guess, like not very many words, but um, yeah, I don't know. I think that starting my own business with Little Dreamers would not have happened if I didn't believe in myself. And I just think, and I guess I wonder, like, those 10 years where I struggled with my confidence or with my um, self-esteem, like, how would those have been different if I had believed in myself then? Because this has been amazing. This has been awesome. Wow,
Love
that
that.
would have been neat.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. That's great. I'll stop this now.